Hello, everyone. Welcome to our WAVE Accelerating Water Stewardship webinar. We give everybody kind of a moment to get into the webinar. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So I am Stacy Vogel-Davis. I'm the Communications Director at the Water Council. Thanks for joining us today. So today on the panel, we'll have Matt Howard, who is the Water Council's Vice President for Water Stewardship, Clayton Steele, who is the Senior Environmental Manager at Clearwater Paper Corporation, and Lauren Enright, who is the Program Manager for Water Services for SCS Global Services, which is the exclusive verification partner for WAVE. Just one thing to note is if you have any questions, please submit them to the Q&A. We do hope to have some time at the end for questions, so submit them there and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm going to let Matt take it away.
Thanks, Stacy, and thanks Clayton and Lauren for joining us as well today on our webinar about WAVE. Next slide, please, Stacy. So just to give you a little bit of background on the Water Council as an organization before we dive into our WAVE program. For those of you that don't know us, the Water Council is a nonprofit headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We've been around for around 15 or so years now, working globally through our network to address water quality and quantity challenges that industry faces, that utilities and other stakeholders face. And through that work, we've organized ourselves into two key platforms. That's the way in which we deliver our services and solutions to the marketplace. One of our platforms is our innovation and technology platform, as the name implies, with a focus around getting water technologies out into the marketplace, getting those technologies to the end users that need them to address the quality and quantity challenges. We also have a water stewardship platform. That's the platform that I am responsible for. I'll talk a bit more about that in a second, but essentially really focusing on organizations that use and impact water resources, and again, delivering solutions and services to them. So those are our two key platforms. We're also a member-based organization. We have about 140 members right now globally. A good concentration of that membership is based here in North America. We do have a solid base in Europe as well as Asia. And again, just to reiterate, we're headquartered here in the United States, but again, we serve our partners, our clients all across the globe on a variety of water challenges and issues that are being faced right now. Next slide, please. Just in terms of our experience working in water stewardship, we really kind of built out our expertise working in partnership with a group of organizations like the Nature Conservancy, WWF, and others to help build and establish the Alliance for Water Stewardship. And in fact, over the course of its first 5 or 6 years or so, as a standalone nonprofit, the United States, the Water Council oversaw the AWS system in the US, Canada, and Mexico through about 2021. It was really that experience working on the ground at the site level with all kinds of companies from dairies to data centers that we really helped build out the business case and really contributed to this idea of what constitutes good water stewardship and even good site and corporate water stewardship, slightly different lens through which to view water stewardship efforts from the company perspective. And that experience has really led us to where we're at today in the Water Council, just in terms of our overall approach to water stewardship. Next slide, Stacy. We've developed approaches that really focus more on strategy and kind of taking the enterprise-wide view to water stewardship. We do offer water stewardship advisory services. We've worked with everyone from Apple and Google to small dairies and forages and manufacturers and companies in the agriculture sector, you name it. We've kind of touched on those water stewardship issues at the company level. Our advisory services these days are really focused more on trade associations and taking a sector approach, and we continue to partner with the American Chemistry Council, the Suppliers Partnership for the Environment, and a new partner this year in the Vinyl Institute. And again, really taking more of a strategic sector-wide approach to applying water stewardship best practices. We do continue to offer capacity building and training. We're excited to announce a new partnership and a new training program that's going to be launched online here in the next month or so with our partners at ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, and their accreditation board. That training, again, will be announced shortly and will be available online 24/7 through that partnership with ANSI, ANAB. And then, of course, last but not least, the focus of our water stewardship work at the Water Council has really been around our WAVE program, which is our focus today. Next slide, please. So presumably, if you're on the call, you have some interest in water issues, and you're probably aware, certainly from the US, if not the global perspective, just in terms of the sheer amount of water challenges that we're facing on a daily basis here in the US and globally. One of the things we talk about often here at the Water Council is if you're not facing a water crisis now, you will be soon enough. And that's the unfortunate reality. And as we look at the baseline conditions for water stress, and this is a map, or these are two maps that have been captured from the WRI aqueduct tool, you can see on the left-hand side, kind of looking at the current conditions in terms of water stress in the US and up into Canada and parts of Mexico, a significant amount of stress, which is represented by the orange or burnt orange coloration. And we can see some of the usual suspects in the west coast of the US, down into the southwest, down into central Mexico. But it's always surprising to look at the central portion of the United States, our breadbasket, so to speak, the Great Plains, up and around into the Great Lakes region, which does not have a water availability problem, but is really more of a water quality related issue. And even up into the prairie provinces and the agricultural regions of Canada, you can see a lot of stress. And even over into southeastern portion of the US, down into Florida. Unfortunately, the situation, looking at the right-hand side, again, drawn from WRI's aqueduct tool, looking at future projections, 2030 is just right around the corner. And unfortunately, even in this short amount of time between now and 2030, we're projecting to see some significant increases in the areas that are facing water stress in the US. And so really the point here is to reemphasize that whether most of your direct operations or some of your direct operations are located in regions with relatively low water stress, chances are you have one or two operations or a key supplier or customer or partner located in a region of stress. And so taking the supply chain perspective and this idea of building resilient supply chains through improved water stewardship becomes critically important because, again, since supply chains so often are global in nature, there's going to be a water risk hotspot somewhere in there. So this is really a call to action for companies to begin looking at where they're operating, where they're sourcing, and begin developing a better understanding of their water uses, impacts, and risks. Next slide. So in that regard, the Water Council has developed its WAVE program, WAVE Water Stewardship Verified. And we developed this program over the course of a couple of years back around 2020. We pilot tested it for a year with 3 companies. And so we really spent an extensive amount of time doing stakeholder engagement, pilot testing, you name it, to really ensure that we developed a program, number one, that met a need or a gap in the marketplace. And because of our focus on the enterprise, on the corporation, this is today, as far as we know, the world's only enterprise-wide verification program. So the first thing that we did through that pilot testing, through the development phase, was again ensuring that we developed something that was meeting a specific need or a gap in the marketplace. So this program, WAVE, continues to be complementary to other programs that are out there, and I'll talk a bit about that a little bit later. The second issue is ensuring that the steps that we developed as part of this program truly helped to define what constitutes quote unquote good corporate water stewardship or good enterprise-wide water stewardship. And so we really drew from international best practice to help us put together the 5 steps of our WAVE program. And you can see here that, again, just reiterating that this is a risk assessment framework. And the idea here is to provide a step-by-step, easy to follow path that really lowers the barriers to entry for companies and organizations that want to get into water stewardship. And so it's critically important before companies start resourcing water stewardship activities, and before companies and or other organizations begin doing specific water stewardship projects at sites or facilities across their operations, that they really develop that broad overview of risk as it relates to their enterprise. And so WAVE really does 3 things in terms of helping to build out that understanding. The first is developing a water use and impact profile for the organization. So it kind of walks you through the steps, provides the indicators and metrics that really help you paint that broad scope or broad picture of how water is being used and impact across your operations and even into your supply chain. The second key piece to the program is really focused on the watershed level risk assessment. And we've even built in source water vulnerability assessment and questions as well to build out that risk profile, that watershed-based risk profile. And then the third thing is putting those 2 things together, then really developing that prioritized list of action, that roadmap that you're going to follow to begin resourcing and prioritizing your work around water stewardship. Next slide, please. This slide really lays out then visually the 5 steps of the program. As I mentioned, each of the steps has indicators and metrics. And so those are the indicators and metrics that, of course, demonstrate conformity. Those are the things that SCS is going to verify and assess in terms of their verification. And Lauren will talk a bit more about that in a minute. But you can see here again the 5 steps moving from left to right, just to kind of paint again a high level view of walking through this program relatively quickly. That first step again is focusing on building out that water use and impact profile. How are you using water at your different sites? Where are you sourcing water at those different sites? Is it coming directly from a water resource, ground or surface water? Is it coming from a third party? How's water being used inside your facility? Where does it go when it leaves your facility? And so really walking through that first step to help build out that decision-ready and action-ready water use and impact profile. The second step then gets into then actually assessing those water-related risks that are faced, both in terms of the overall corporation or enterprise, but also the very specific local or regional risks that are faced across the different sites under the direct operational control of the organization. And so again, getting into some of the basics around watershed risk assessment, looking at the 3 key risk categories of physical risk, reputational, and regulatory risk. But as I mentioned earlier, also building in some source water vulnerability questions and assessments as well. So really diving in deep, so to speak, in terms of understanding those specific risks that are faced where companies operate, and even again, where they might source or carry out strategic activities within their supply chain or value chain as that's relevant. The outputs that you're really going to see then from the WAVE program come in these last 3 steps. So putting together in the third steps that priority list of sites and actions that you want to take across your enterprise to directly mitigate and address those risks that you face. And so as part of this overall assessment framework of the WAVE program, then you really develop through step 3 then the necessary information to begin developing contextual targets. And so that when you set your targets, when you set your goals, when you move forward into developing a water strategy for your organization, WAVE provides that foundation of certainty, of credibility, and transparency on which to build those targets and to build that strategy. In the fourth step, then, based on this overarching water use impact and risk profile, what does the water stewardship commitment or policy statement for your organization need to look like? It needs to reflect, again, the contextual nature of how you're using and impacting water. And so, again, through those indicators within step 4, then helping organizations put together a water stewardship policy or commitment statement. So that's another key output. And then last but not least, in step 5, really providing, again, the approach to help companies credibly and transparently communicate about what they have done in terms of the WAVE program. And in fact, within step 5, companies need to communicate publicly, number 1, that they've gone through the program. Number 2, what they've learned as a result of going through this program and assessing their overall water use impact and risks. And then number 3, what they intend to do about it. So really signaling publicly what those next steps are going to be from the organizational perspective. Next slide, please. So I mentioned, WAVE really helps pave the way or ease the way into water stewardship by lowering the barriers to entry. It helps companies cut costs, reduce complexity, because it is a highly complex environment when it comes to water use impact and risk. And so again, helping companies mitigate those highest priority risks, helping them to reduce and avoid direct and indirect costs associated with how they manage water and water resources, and ultimately provide a pathway or a roadmap to really operationalize water stewardship from the boardroom all the way to the shop floor. More often than not, unfortunately, we are approached by companies and work with companies who really kind of have a disconnect between the water strategy and then the actual actions that are being carried out at the site level. And so WAVE really helps ensure that those two things are connected. It's a virtuous circle in terms of information flow and really, again, ensuring that the companies are really taking their limited time, limited resources, and focusing those where it's needed most when it comes to water issues. And then last but not least, and again, we're going to hear more about this toward the end of the webinar, the importance of verification and a true independent verification from SCS Global Services really adds credibility to the companies and to the efforts that they're taking in terms of water stewardship as they go out and communicate that to stakeholders. Next slide, please. So again, being the world's only enterprise-wide verification program, one of the key things that hopefully you'll be able to achieve by going through this program is getting that verification claim and logo. You can see a sample statement here, and you can see the logo on the top right-hand corner. But essentially, the end result here is a claim statement and a logo that you can use to communicate in your sustainability reports, your CSR reports, that you can communicate online via websites and social media, and even the information that you develop as part of going through the program and the actions that you end up committing to. Those things are reportable in external reporting frameworks as well. And so this has been really one of the key benefits and points of feedback that we've received from companies is this ability to communicate what they're doing as a corporation or across the enterprise in terms of water stewardship. Next slide. So just to conclude in terms of the impacts resulting from going through the program and achieving successful verification, we're hearing directly from our companies and organizations that are in the program right now, this idea around optimizing water use, building more resilient operations and supply chain. We know that water stewardship really acts in terms of a climate adaptation strategy. And again, going back to that WRI map and looking at water stress, doesn't really matter where you're operating anymore globally. You're going to be facing some level of water quality or quantity challenge, if not a reputation or regulatory risk. So this idea around building resilient operations and supply chains through water stewardship is really at the heart of the WAVE program. I've already talked about the roadmap for action. And just sort of the last bullet here on this slide is really important. We've done a comprehensive crosswalk across about 15 different international reporting frameworks, including the ones you see up here, CDP, GRI, CSRD, et cetera, the alphabet soup of reporting frameworks. And the outcomes, the actions, the data that are developed through the WAVE program, those are all things that can be reported in those frameworks. And in fact, the one that's near and dear to a lot of folks these days is the EU's Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. It's a nearly one-to-one alignment between WAVE and the E3 Water and Marine Resources component of the CSRD. So there's very tight alignment and complementarity between WAVE and the other international reporting frameworks that are out there. Next slide. So if you're interested in just a better understanding of how WAVE fits into the overarching universe of programs, this is just a snapshot. This is by no means all the programs that are out there. But again, we really developed WAVE to be complementary and to fill a gap. And so just by way of an example, companies that commit to the CEO water mandate, WAVE can help them implement and effectuate that commitment to water stewardship across the enterprise. And as you go through the assessment protocol and the assessment steps of the WAVE program, achieve that verification, you develop that action plan and that roadmap, now you know where you can focus your very specific site level water stewardship efforts through things like SCS's new water stewardship and resiliency standard. So WAVE works really well with site level aspects of water stewardship as well, because again, like I said, taking that limited time and resources, now you know where you want to implement those very specific site level actions. So WAVE fits into this overall approach, again, from the boardroom to the shop floor in terms of water stewardship. Next slide, please. So just to wrap things up, if you have an interest in the WAVE program after today's webinar, obviously feel free to reach out to us here at the Water Council directly, or even connect with Clayton. We're going to hear from him in a minute about Clearwater Paper, or Lauren at SCS Global Services. I'm sure either one of them would be willing to talk to you one-on-one about the WAVE program. And we can get into the nature of the fees and sort of how the program unfolds. But again, we're here to work with you, and we're always happy to connect interested parties with companies like Clearwater that are either in the program or have been verified to the program, so you can have a direct B2B conversation around the pros and cons of joining the program. And just to wrap things up here on the next slide, you can just get a sense right now of who some of our current participants and verified organizations are. All this information is on our website at waveverified.com. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up, and I'm going to turn it directly over to Clayton Steele, who is the Senior Environmental Manager at Clearwater Paper. Clayton, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So as Matt said, my name is Clayton Steele. I work for Clearwater Paper. We're a pulp and paper company that makes things that are essential for everyday life. Here are a couple of examples of some new products that we've developed in the last several years. This is a Nuvo cup stock and reimagine folding carton product that we developed. The cartons contain over 30% post-consumer fiber, which we believe we're the first to the market with that much post-consumer fiber. You might see a cup stock like this at like a local Starbucks. Just an example of what we do at Clearwater Paper. Next slide, please. Clearwater Paper is located at several different locations across the country. We have pulp and paper facilities in Idaho, Arkansas, and Georgia. And then we also have some other sites throughout the country. Next slide, please. So why did Clearwater choose WAVE? Got a couple slides here to talk a little bit about why we ended up choosing WAVE. We chose it because when we talked with Matt, he talked about how there's a matrix process that has already been developed, and there's an implementation guide that kind of walks you through that process. And after talking with him, it definitely made sense for why we would do that. As Matt said, we could look at like every single site. We didn't just have to look at one site. We could look at all of our different operations throughout the country, and we could do a watershed risk assessment. We could use WR Aqueduct, or we could use the water risk filter, and then we could prioritize the sites based on those risk assessments. But the main reason that we did choose to go with Wave was because of the third-party verification process with SCS Global. Next slide, please. Here's an example of the timeline and some of the challenges that we ran into. In December of 2003, so a little over a year ago, we began conversations with Matt about the Wave process. And it took a little while to kind of figure out what we were going to do, but in early January, we signed an NDA and a program agreement. And then in late January, we received the implementation guide and a conformity matrix from Matt. And then between January and June, we basically we filled out that matrix, and we met with Matt, at various times throughout the process. But in 2024, Clearwater Paper, we ended up acquiring a mill in Georgia, so we had to add that to the matrix when we were working through the process. And so that took an extra month or so. And then in June, we worked with Lauren and her team to begin the verification process. And we went through that whole process, and we got verified for 11 different locations. But after that verification, we ended up selling 4 of the sites, and we closed another one of those sites. But the verification process was able to still allow us to identify where our biggest risks were. So with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Lauren at SCS Global.
Many thanks, Clayton. And that was a great precursor to sort of understand from a client perspective, what is that process, and in the perspective from the Water Council and the introduction, all the way to the verification process. My name is Lauren Enright. I'm the Program Manager of Water Services at SCS Global. SCS Global Services is an international third-party leader in certification, in advisory services, and standards development. We have auditors in every market across the world, and we have been in business since, I believe it's 1982 or 83. So we're going on 41 years. I'm a little off in certifying. We have over 30,000 certifications in over 125 countries. Stacy, next slide. Our reach is far and wide, from apparel and textiles to mining, sustainable ag, jewelry, and water stewardship in between there. Stacy, next slide. Our history with the Water Council has dated back to 2016, in which we started speaking about water stewardship and sort of assisting clients and how we can do that. The WAVE enterprise-wide program has been going on since 2022, in which we became their sole verifier. Why third-party verification matters, and as Clayton pointed out, it really actually points to how we can assist the client in a transparent and credible audit through a documentation review, understanding that the WAVE program's audit is a desktop, so it's remote, and we are not going on site for anything. We are able to help the client transparently remote, in which the client actually uploads files to a secure share file system within the SCS global platform. Essentially, the program propels where sustainable growth can happen, where the gaps are within within water use, water impact, as Matt Howard was speaking to. We've seen it being connected to sharing these results with investors, with stakeholders, with suppliers. I've heard from clients who have gone through the program, we're solely doing this because our suppliers are putting pressure on us. So it's a little bit of a myriad to why folks are going through this program and being able to sort of understand what their priorities are. I have been able to witness clients have that aha moment in really understanding where the main use of their water consumption is and water impact on the ground. Stacy, next slide. Why WAVE actually is important in third-party verification is because it demonstrates to your stakeholders and reiterating to the globe, to clients and suppliers and investors, this is what we're doing and why. It prevents any kind of greenwashing claims in terms of really understanding through that 5-step process, where is it that the client can have a really strong hold in what they're saying and why they're saying it, and that trusted opinion in the background. It also connects to the changing climate, in which we really understand how water is really being impacted in the hydrological cycle by climate change, and demonstrating that even further to clients in its connection with the carbon water nexus. Stacy, next slide. So the verification process is in its 5 steps. You can go through it as quickly or as slowly as an organization desires, based on resource capacity, on timeline, on sort of understanding where your priorities are at within the company. The Water Council team will then go ahead and introduce a client to SCS and our team to be able to have an informal conversation, understanding the sector, understanding where those sites are located. So for instance, if sites are located, which we've had overseas and in other countries where English is not their first language, we'll then go and implement a process to really be able to understand and translate those documents. The client then goes ahead and submits, as Clayton mentioned, the conformity matrix, which is a 5-step process in which the client is really moving through to understand what their use impact, prioritizing those sites, and committing to water stewardship. The SCS team then goes ahead and reviews that documentation on our share file system. We will get a first response back within about 2 to 3 weeks after the client first submits it. Any gaps that the client may have, will then go and share that and review that with the client as necessary. And the organization has one more time to be able to submit information. When the verification package and verification is approved, we'll go ahead and send the client a logo, the verification report, and findings. So the client has it really sort of in hard copy to understand how they can use this as a diving board to understand more and be able to implement water stewardship activities. So a recent client that just went through this actually got super excited with me towards the end with their verification package, because they were like, we have so many different water stewardship activities between SCS and the Water Council that you guys have propelled us to start thinking about, which was pretty invigorating, I think, from a enterprise-wide level, as they had quite a few sites across the world. So once that WAVE verification package is sent, a logo and language guide is also sent, just if there's any follow-up on press release or internal needs that need to go on from a PR or marketing perspective. And there are my contact details for more reference.
Thanks, Lauren. I'm going to turn it over to Stacy just to moderate. I know some folks have been able to submit some questions potentially to the Q&A. So we do have a few minutes here to answer any of those questions. If you haven't yet submitted a question and you do have one, get it into the Q&A and Stacy will ask it. Stacy, I turn it over to you.
Yeah, first question here is for WAVE, does it work for certain types of sectors? Are there certain types of companies or size of companies that you're looking for to participate in this program?
Yeah, good question. So WAVE works for any company or organization in any sector operating anywhere globally. So it is not specific to, the US or North America. And I think even as Lauren indicated, they've already been looking at, information from sites located globally for companies going through verification. So because it's a process-based approach, probably really familiar to most companies out there that operate, with ISO standards or things built on Plan, Do, Check, Act. You're essentially following this process-based approach, this step-by-step process, again, to help you understand your own water uses, impacts, and risks, and then ultimately, based on that very specific context of your organization and your uses and risks, then building that pathway forward, that roadmap for action. Just to kind of add on, because it was brought up by both Clayton and Lauren, when you do sign up for the WAVE program, we present you on day one with a couple of really key documents. Obviously, the first is the WAVE normative document itself, so laying out the 5 steps and the intent. But we also provide you with an implementation guide. So it's a pretty extensive implementation guide, probably north of 25 pages at this point in time. Again, going through step by step, really helping companies work their way through each of these steps to ensure that they understand what they need to do in terms of conformity to the WAVE program. And then the third thing that we deliver to organizations on day one is this conformity matrix. It's the SCS conformity matrix. And so companies know on day one what the expectations will be in terms of the verification and conformity when they're ready for that point to engage with SCS. And so you can use that conformity matrix to really project manage through the WAVE program. You can store your files in there electronically. And as Lauren mentioned, it's essentially a virtual or desk audit at the end of the day. So if you follow that format, you follow that conformity matrix, you're essentially then just handing that over electronically back to SCS as they go through the verification. So we really help you from day one to have a successful implementation of the program and to be prepared from day one to go through that verification process with SCS. The last thing I'll say about documentation, and again, Clayton kind of mentioned this too, is the Water Council is here for you through the entire implementation and verification process. So if you've got any questions, you've got concerns, you have questions of intent, we're here to answer those and to work with you again through this process. So I think with that, Stacey, I'll send it back over to you to see if there are any other questions.
This is a pretty easy question, but for Lauren or Matt, but are there other companies that verify to the WAVE program, or is it only SCS Global?
So it is SCS Global, so they're our exclusive partner in this arrangement for WAVE verification.
Another question here, and you kind of addressed this during the presentation, but can this be used for companies outside of the US?
Yes, and so there's no requirement that you have to be headquartered in the US or North America. Again, WAVE works for any company in any sector located anywhere globally.
And just to that point, Stacy, like I have review documents in Italian, in Spanish, in French. And so it is, as much as like we are sitting here in the United States, like it is very cool to see sort of where clients are feeling confident to be able to explore how they are using water, and it's, globally, even though it's not perfect. And that's sort of where a lot of, I know where Matt talks to clients in, this process isn't perfect, and them trying to understand where that documentation is, because they're gathering it from different sites that, typically don't need, they're like, well, why are we getting sewage rates, or why are we getting this for and it's really being able to sort of start that process and being able to see it through. And I guess one more point is, like, on the timeline of things, I've seen some clients be prepped and ready to go within like 6 weeks after meeting them, or it might take them like 4 months, 5 months. As Clayton mentioned, like, they had a little, it's not, no, it wasn't a hiccup, Clayton, but you guys had a lot of different movements at Clearwater going on, and to really understand here, let's be patient with their own process and understand, like, are there mergers, acquisitions, closures of plants, because that's happening in real time.
And this is actually a good follow-up to that. This question is for Clayton. What were some of your aha moments or most impactful learnings as you went through the process?
I think the biggest thing I would say is, if you run into a question, don't just let the questions pile up. Reach out to Matt as they come up, because it just lets you keep moving through the process. If you get stumped on one of the questions and the implementation guide doesn't make sense, reach out to Matt so he can kind of help you keep moving. That would be my recommendation, I guess.
And we have one more question, unless anybody wants to submit any right now. But this is kind of a fun one. How did Wave get started? Where did you see the need for it, and for SCS and the Water Council? Why did you start this program?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just in terms of some of the things I mentioned in the presentation. I mean, at the Water Council, a lot of our experiences really started out at the site, at the facility level, and now through things like SCS's own Water Stewardship and Resiliency Standard, I think we've got a really good understanding of what site level, what good site level and facility level water stewardship looks like. And we felt, and I think this has sort of been confirmed, just in terms of conversations that we have with other global NGOs, is we didn't have as good of an understanding or even a consensus, let alone a consensus around what constitutes good corporate or enterprise-wide water stewardship. And so, not to say that we have all the answers to that, but we really felt it was important to start contributing to that conversation. And so, because there wasn't an enterprise-wide, and still isn't, other than Wave, an enterprise-wide verification program, that's really why we focused our efforts there. The other thing that was sort of happening during the development phase of Wave, sort of the rise of all the different voluntary reporting frameworks, the CDPs, the GRIs, TCFD, TNFD, you name it. And so we just kept getting more and more questions from companies about, which framework should we use? Which one tells, a more comprehensive story around water stewardship? Is there one that tells a comprehensive story? And so we were just fielding a lot of questions and interest around these different reporting frameworks. And we felt Wave, and going through it, would develop the necessary data, information, credible actions that companies could then turn around and report into those independent frameworks. So that's really kind of the genesis behind the development of the program.
Okay, I do have one more question for Lauren. How does Wave fit into the water services at SCS Global Services?
I personally manage 3 different services at SCS. One is the Wave verification program, and I was just going to mention the scheme process. It's a 2-year process. So you, as an organization, have the opportunity to get re-verified after 2 years. The second service is the SCS Water Stewardship and Resiliency certification program. So SCS just developed a Water Stewardship and Resiliency certification and standard in June of 2024 now. So this connection between the enterprise-wide and the site level certification is extremely important, and we're seeing that more and more on client calls, proposals, implementation, which is super fun. And the last piece is our technical advisory, in which we are engaged in on projects on the ground with folks from water quality to water risk assessments, sort of across the board right now, even dabbling in the ocean, which is an interesting one that is not necessarily on a freshwater, but it's a land title exchange that we're now sort of seeing clients are asking us to open up even our eyes and saying, here, like, this is where we need to go. This is the kind of expertise we need.
Okay, we did just get one more question come in. So Lauren, can you share more about the site level documentation and data that is required for the online audit, and what does that expectation look like for site level managers?
For the WAVE program?
Yeah.
So we at SCS create 5 steps within the share file, and essentially we try to make it as easy as possible for the client to be able to drop those files within the specific indicators. So should you have sort of a question about, a specific indicator, I'm not a consultant on the WAVE program, so you'd have to, as Clayton mentioned, reach out to Matt. But essentially, you would then drop that documentation in. It ranges on indicator to indicator based on the 5 steps. So in the first step, it's around water use. It's looking at watershed. It's looking at, the site-specific level of wastewater discharge, compliance, around ISO 14001 certifications. It then goes into looking at sort of an overall watershed specific, like, availability and quality, which I know sort of clients are new to. And then this is more going through the conformity matrix that Matt, or I would be happy to send to you. The third step looks at prioritizing those sites, really using the WWF and WRI aqueduct. And then step 5 is looking at building out that commitment from your senior level staff and stakeholders to commit to it, to showcase it, to promote it.
Yeah, just to kind of jump into, one of the things that we try to be conscientious about in terms of the development of the program is to ensure that companies were gathering and acquiring the necessary data that they needed in order to make decisions and to act in terms of addressing and mitigating risk. More often than not, what we've seen out in the marketplace is a lot of data gathering for data gathering's sake, and a lot of superfluous information and goose hunts for information that may not necessarily help a company make an action-ready decision at either the enterprise or the site level. So we kind of walk this balance in the development of the program and ensuring that there is enough data, obviously, to give us strategic information, give companies strategic information about water use impact and risk, but also ensure that we don't go overboard and really inundate companies with a massive data gathering exercise on a site-by-site level. So again, if that's a concern for organizations on the call, that's something that we can definitely walk through. And we are willing, even though the program is proprietary, we're willing to walk through the program with anybody on a Teams call or a Zoom call, and we can go through and literally go step by step, indicator by indicator through the program, so that you get a sense of the level of effort, the resources that might be required to work your way through the program.
All right, I think that's the end of our questions. So thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, Lauren and Matt and Clayton, for presenting. You can go to waveverified.com, as Matt said, to learn more. We'll also be sending out a copy of this recording, with contact information in the next day or two. So thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.